Mr. Speaker, many thanks for allowing me to participate in this debate today. I do so as a keen sportsman myself and a true believer in sport as an essential element of building stronger communities, improving public health outcomes and teaching our young people the value of team ethics and fair play. In my younger days, I played rugby for London Welsh at junior level and for my college at university. Clearly, the motivation for doing so was partly that I was doing my constitutional and patriotic duty as a Welshman. But of course, it was also based on my love of sport as a critically important feature of Welsh culture and identity. In my constituency, I see every weekend the power of rugby to bring our communities together across generations. And of course, rugby is just one example of the power of sport as a unifying force for good. It is against this backdrop that I must express my deepest regret for the failure of the coalition government to build on the Olympic legacy. The fact of the matter is that the 2012 Olympics created a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to improve the fitness levels of this country's children and young people, but that opportunity was squandered by the coalition government when it decided to scrap Labour's school sports partnerships. Mr. Speaker, Labour's school sports partnerships played a critically important role in enabling primary school children to do competitive sport, and the decision to scrap them has led directly to the proportion of pupils doing 2 hours of sport a week collapsing from 90% under Labour to 50% under the last government. Cuts to local authority budgets have also hit leisure centres and playing fields hard. In Wales, the £1.5 billion cut to the block grant has had a deeply damaging effect. In my own constituency, Cummer Community Pool is threatened with closure, much to the despair of the local community, who are fighting hard to find a way to keep their pool that plays a critically important role in community life and public health open. This government must do better than its previous incarnation. The last 5 years saw a lack of strategy, piecemeal initiatives and announcements, and an absence of joined-up thinking. The coalition government sports strategy can best be described as a litany of failure, with some of the lowlights including scrapping Labour's target for school children to do at least 2 hours of PE and sport in school each week, undermining Labour's successful school sports partnership, which were helping more children to do sport, watering down regulations on school playing fields, failing to carry out an audit of sports and recreation facilities available to local communities across the country, and failing to capitalise on the spirit and enthusiasm of the volunteer games makers. Mr. Speaker, the concerns that I'm expressing today are not narrow party political points. On the contrary, they are felt by a wide range of stakeholders, including the Olympic gold medalist Darren Campbell, who said back in 2013, "I have grave concerns that cutting the funding for school sports partnerships network will have a hugely negative impact on the sporting opportunities that are available to our young people." And Chris Dunn, head teacher of Langdon Park School in Tower Hamlets, London, who described the government's decision as an enormously destructive act verging on vandalism, and said it was a tragedy that sporting opportunities had been cut back dramatically after the Games. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the seductive vision was that £9.3 billion invested in the Games would not only hasten the regeneration of a neglected corner of East London and unlock a host of other benefits, but would also act as a corrective in Whitehall to the attitude of politicians towards sport. No longer would sport be left at the back of the policy queue when it came to funding discussions. Instead, it would be incorporated into policies on fighting obesity, tackling crime, boosting educational achievement, and bringing communities together. Fast forward to 2015, and the fact of the matter is that a properly integrated, properly funded, cross-departmental plan for sport and well-being remains as frustratingly elusive as ever. And meanwhile, childhood obesity rates continue to rise, PE in schools continue to decline, provision of facilities remains frustratingly patchy, and participation figures suggest a widening gap between the sporting haves and have-nots.
Extremely grateful.